I'm Kate Thomas, and this is At Home Radio, a podcast about feeling at home where we are, whether in our own space or out in the world. We're continuing our conversation with members of the League of Women Voters of Hudson. Today, we'll discuss the need for poll workers. One of today's guests is Karen Leith, a member for 40 years who serves on the LWV Ohio Board and the LWV Hudson Board as chair of the Mission Impact Advocacy Committee. And we have Roseanne Thomas, a member of the League for approximately 30 years, who has served on League boards at the local and state levels and currently serves on the LWV Membership Committee. In 2008, Roseanne became a poll worker for Summit County. And we will hear LWV a lot. League of Women Voters, it's easier to just shorten it sometimes, isn't it? So anyway, as we lead up to the November 3rd general election, we're still dealing with the pandemic. How is that affecting the polls?
Well, one thing is the fact that we're still in the middle of this pandemic and the fact that most poll workers have been retired citizens. The most vulnerable group of people have been our poll workers. Most of them are not returning. They don't feel safe. Some of them have underlying conditions, which means it would be detrimental to their health to be poll workers. So we suddenly have this great shortage of poll workers. Ohio needs 35,000 poll workers in a good year for over 4,000 polling precincts. This year, we need even more than 35,000 because we need backup poll workers. If someone suddenly gets sick, if someone's running a temperature, they're not going to be allowed to be a precinct worker. Therefore, we need a waiting list of poll workers.
Wow.
Summit County is looking for about 2,500. They have 420 precincts, and usually that would say be slightly under 2,000 to cover that. But again, because of that backlog that's needed, they're looking for 2,500 this time.
Wow. So what will happen if we don't have enough poll workers?
Well, already that is starting. Some of our polling places actually have been senior centers, retirement homes, places where and some places even too small for social distancing. So therefore, the boards of election have become very proactive in finding new polling places. But added to that, if we have a shortage of poll workers, we're going to have to consolidate polling precincts so that more than one precinct will be voting in a place. Also, these places obviously have to be large to handle lines, social distancing, basically accommodate the mobility impaired. So there's just a list of things. So already we're looking, boards of election are looking for new polling places.
Wow. Roseanne, is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, I've been lucky, and probably in Hudson we've been lucky. I've worked since 2008 at a church that is within 5 minutes of my house. And it's a wonderful big space, so, social distancing should be fine. And typically, at least where I've worked, the people at the polling place, the people who are members of the church, treat us wonderfully. I mean, I'm putting in a plug here for how really it's kind of fun to be a poll worker. It is a very long day, but I find that the people that I've worked with, everybody always finds something to talk about for 15 hours, which is kind of a stretch,
It's also, I have to say, it's very nice. We have been lucky here because you recognize the poll workers every time you go in, and you get to see your neighbors and chat and understand that we're all in this together, making democracy work.
Yes. Wow.
That's one of the things that I will miss, because I'm one of those people who has now been made to feel very old. I'm in, that group of people who should not be working the polls this time. Yeah, I will miss it.
Yeah, what will that be like, Roseanne? Because here you are, you've been doing this for more than, well, I don't, math isn't my strong suit, but over quite a long time, 2008, and so here's a year of an important election, and you aren't going to be there. How do you feel about that?
Very not good feelings. This was going to be my fourth presidential race. And I had really thought to myself, I'll do the fourth presidential and then maybe it will be my time to leave. So now I've been cut short of what was going to be my big swan song. Fortunately, like many poll workers, you sign up and you do an absentee ballot request right away because you never know where you're going to be assigned. Fortunately, I've been assigned at my precinct, but it just means that I don't have to think about it during the day. I've already taken care of voting.
Yes, and that is a good thing. So, okay, so what is the solution to this problem of not having the same poll workers come back because they're afraid that they could hurt themselves? What is
the first solution basically is asking a new generation to step up. This is an incredible chance to see democracy in action, to feel that you're really contributing to something bigger. And that's really important. So everyone's been getting very creative. I want to mention 4 programs. First of all, the Supreme Court approved for lawyers to get some of their continuing education credits from being poll workers. And this is absolutely incredible. Lawyers have a number of continuing ed credits they must get every year. So with this, they can log in their continuing ed credits. They need to they need to volunteer, go to the training, and then work the full day in order to get those credits. Along with that, the Accountancy Board of Ohio has approved for accountants to get their continuing ed credits by being a poll worker. These incentives are absolutely wonderful because these are 2 classes of people who really scramble for those continuing ed credits. And this is a chance, a real chance, and this has been absolutely incredible. There also is a program called Day of Democracy, and a number of companies have stepped up to encourage their employees to be poll workers by giving them a paid day off. And some of those companies are Best Buy, Lyft, Gap, J. Crew. Coca-Cola just signed on to do that. JP Morgan and Chase Bank also, which isn't that a neat program? And then the 4th program I'd like to mention is Youth at the Booth. What most people don't realize is our young people can sign up to do this. And basically, if you are 17 and a high school senior, you can actually sign up to be a poll worker. Mm-hmm. And, when you look at how little our young people really know about how democracy works, this is an incredible way of meeting people who are passionate about voting, especially in a presidential election. And to really see it from the ground up. And there's a bonus. You get paid for doing it. And, which is nice pocket money. It averages, I think, about 100. With the training, you get paid for the training, too. So, with the training and the whole day, that's about $150,
Well, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
You're doing something important.
Extremely important. So what we really do need is just a new generation of poll workers. When you start talking to poll workers like Roseanne, who's been doing this for years, basically, we're going to see poll workers retiring, and where are those new poll workers? And that is just so important.
Absolutely.
It's kind of fun. I've now got, I think, two neighbors who are probably 10 years or so younger than I am. And one of them, her son, who is about 20, have all signed up. So people are, the word has gotten out that there is a need. And I think it'll be great to have young people interacting. It's nice to have different generations. And we have been kind of all one generation up until this point. When I first decided to do it, like many people, I would go to vote, and the first thing you do is you look around and you say, I've forgotten what precinct I am, and which line is it, and what, and then you see your neighbor, and I would see Nancy, my neighbor, say, oh good, I know where I'm going. And every year Nancy would say to me, you do League of Women Voters, you do this stuff, this is right up your alley, you need to do this. So that's what I decided in 2008. And when I said to Nancy, I'm joining you this year, she said, great, because this was her year to decide to retire. So that 10-year cycle keeps repeating itself.
That's a great story. I like that. Wow. So how does one become a poll worker?
First, it's easy.
Yes, go ahead, Roseanne.
The easiest way at this point is to go, I think, to the you've got two. You can go to the Secretary of State's website, which they've got it. There's wait a minute, let me see what it was.
Yes, Vote Ohio.
VoteOhio.gov.
Yes,
and then / defending democracy or defend democracy. And you can fill out the form and submit it online. You can do the same thing through the Summit County website, summitcountyboardofelections.org. And if you scroll down on that first homepage, you'll see the section that says Become a Poll Worker. And there you can either fill it out online, or there's also a PDF if you'd rather download it and send it in.
Okay.
They're just now starting to send out the requests to all of us older people to say, are you coming back? So, and we're all saying no. So soon they should be contacting the people who have applied, and you get a kind of green card that says, are you going to be here? You have to tell them what party you are, because the teams are always made up of a Republican and a Democrat. So that's why they ask you. And, if you want to be close to home, I'm sure they will try to accommodate you, but this year is kind of special that way.
Different year, yes.
And as Karen mentioned, you don't have to worry about, I don't know enough, because there is a training session, about 3 hours worth of training that actually.
That's what I would ask you. Yes. How long is the training? Okay.
Yeah, that training is really important. And for new poll workers, it's done in person. You've got to know how to handle the equipment, the electronic poll books, how voting is done in your precinct. You've got to be able to practice on the actual machines. And basically, things are covered this year. Special topics will be covered. PPE, basically all the security measures, who's going to sanitize, how to sanitize, multiple use of pens, who's wiping down the booths, basically how to handle curbside voting. All of these are special topics this year. So that training is just extremely important. Even how and who, how to handle voters who are challenged in any way. Who can have assistance, who can't? What are the mobility issues? How do you handle someone with a mobility issue, et cetera? So it's a very, very thorough training that prepares you and makes you confident about handling the job at the polls. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you say, Roseanne?
Yeah, I would say, in fact, they have done so much work between March, when frankly nobody was prepared, and this election. In March, the person who was my lead team person called me up a few days before, I think it may be like the Thursday before the election, and said, what do you think we ought to do about this, this virus? And shouldn't we be sterilizing things? Shouldn't we be sanitizing? And they really were not prepared from the Board of Education. He and I were talking about, I'll go get wipes and you go get this. So actually, it was a really good decision not to have that in-person voting in March. I think people are feeling much more secure about being poll workers in November because they have thought it through, and there will be training. So kudos to them.
Yeah. And I understand from listening to Secretary of State LaRose that a company has actually donated all the sanitizer, gloves, and extra masks that are going to be needed. And so the Secretary of State's office will be distributing that to the different county boards of election to make sure every polling place is prepared. And that if people walk in having forgotten their mask, they will be offered a mask.
Terrific. Wonderful. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say to encourage people to work work the polls, or any other stories you want to tell, either of you?
Just try it. You might like it. I definitely liked it. And, I actually, the whole thing with the masks and all of that, I know that, I know I can't do that, but I'd almost like to. I'd like to see how Americans respond to this at the polls. It will be a really interesting experiment.
Yes, a very different, in some ways surreal, but again, if you've got the commitment, you just go and do it and just take care of it. I mean, it's just like any other necessity, like going to the doctor or going to the grocery store. You just put on the mask and
you go.
And go. Yeah.
and it is an amazing feeling, I think. I haven't worked as a poll worker, but I've done other things leading up to elections for years. And it is amazing to be part of the democratic process, to understand that it is a responsibility of citizenship and that you are part of what happens to your country.
Yeah. And it does affect you.
It does.
Whatever happens, it affects you.
Yes. Yes.
So definitely good to vote.
That's right.
All right. Well, I so very much thank you, Karen and Roseanne, for being on today and all your wise words and enthusiasm. And I look forward to learning more as we go along and maybe someday becoming a poll worker. Who knows? You never know.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes, very nice. Thank you for having us.
I so appreciate it. Thank you. I'm Kate Thomas with At Home Radio. Until next time, why don't you consider becoming a poll worker like I am? Thanks so much for listening.